I'm big on gratitude, and I hope that comes across, because I really am, like, with everything I've been able to do, I am so grateful, and I'm so lucky. And I think what I forget to do is recognize at the end of the day that I am working really hard, and that I am working on myself, which a lot of people don't do. And I'm facing the scary things, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm wondering how to grow and how to become a better version of myself. And it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of struggle, but I'm doing the damn thing, and that's enough. And that is something I should be so, so proud of, which I am.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the DNA podcast. I'm your host, Douglas Nyback. If you are new here, thank you for joining us. And if you've been here for the past few or from the very beginning, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you very much. Today is a very special episode for a lot of reasons. One, our guest. Her name is Sara Waisglass. She's one of the stars of the hit show Ginny and Georgia. She plays Maxine Baker. Our producer, Dahlia Gavian, who is amazing. She was a total rock star in teeing this one up. This is the first guest we've had on the podcast that I'd never met before them coming on the show. I'm aware that that's super normal for podcasts, but so far it hasn't been for ours. It was an incredible experience for me to be able to talk with this incredible person who is so intelligent and so kind, so willing to dive into her process as an actor, her journey from childhood to now, through the hardships and the triumphs, talking about mental health, talking about the challenges and pitfalls and dangers of social media, and the profound experience that Ginny and Georgia has been for her. Having this conversation while literally getting to know this incredible person for the very first time was so valuable to me. Like, it was such a blessing. And Sara is an incredible person. She does not take her success and the success of the show for granted in any way. She's humble. She's an incredible actor. She's emotionally intelligent. There's all of this will be revealed in this conversation. If I was just to keep saying all the nice things that there are to say about Sara Waisglass, that would be the entire podcast. I don't think that's why you're here. So let's, without further ado, get on into this one, because it's very special, and I think you're really gonna enjoy it. So much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, this is like, it's funny because coming into this, I was like a little nervous. Like, we're still kind of a baby podcast, not baby podcast. We've been at it for a little bit.
You guys you're grown up.
Thank you. But you're the first person that I've had on that I genuinely have never met until this moment. Like,
Lucky
most people
you.
I've worked with within the industry in some capacity or another. And so I was like, I gotta Google you. I'm like, ChatGPT is telling me everything about you. And I checked out some of the interviews that you've done.
Oh, cool.
And one of the things that I just kind of want to say out of the gate in watching some of your work and getting access to it, like, and just kind of doing a bit of a deep dive in you, there's something about the quality of your performance that's so whip smart and highly intellectual, and yet, like, there's this undercurrent of this empathetic, compassionate instrument that's like so deeply emotionally engaged, and it feels like you're kind of always surfing both of those waves as you go, and it's fucking great to watch. I just gotta tell you, I was just like, this lady is a delight.
I want you with me everywhere. Why am I getting teary-eyed? It's the first freaking question. Oh my God. That is so nice. Thank you so much for saying that.
You're so welcome. And it's it seems as though, like, and I've heard you talk a little bit about Maxine, and it seems as though that's been like a personality that in some ways is like you and in some ways is really not. And I'm curious, because she just goes and goes and goes. As an actor, I know if I was auditioning for that, I'd be like, you know? So tell me about how settling into her happened. Like, did it happen overnight? Was it something that just clicked?
You know what's, okay, I have a bad habit where when I get an audition, I don't look at the breakdown or anything until I read the script. Like, I always go to the script first, because I feel like if a voice comes out of that script, that's going to be a more telling sign than sometimes the character breakdown can be.
Cool.
So I remember I read the script and I felt like I knew her immediately. Her rambling, her energy, and it just popped off the page to me, and I remember being so excited. And I'm never excited to audition for things. I hate auditions. Okay. So that was like a big switch for me.
Yeah.
The audition process was insane for Maxine. I auditioned in May, I think, for the first time, and I didn't book the role until July, and I think I had seven different auditions with them.
Oh, damn.
No chemistry reads, except for one chemistry reads with the other girls, but for the most part, it was just me doing this one insane 6-page scene with like all monologuing over and over and over again. I think I did it like 46 times on camera.
Whoa.
Yeah, because I texted the casting director later and I was like, can I have those tapes just for my records? Because it would be nice to have.
Yeah.
And he was like, absolutely. And he sent me all of them. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Who is the casting director?
Jason Knight.
Love Jason.
The best.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite humans.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single actor in the city who has anything bad to say about
I
Jason.
know.
Yeah.
What a reputation. But yeah, I feel like Max has kind of given me an opportunity to really dive into the joy in life and like the excitement of very mundane things. And like, I just feel like she's such a ball of light in every scenario, and you know, with her friendships and her relationships and her family, like she's just always so loving and so open, and I think that's like such a beautiful quality that I wish I had more of, and so being able to kind of link up with her and be able to live in that was so special, and still continues to be special. She's like the best character I've ever played.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Like as an actor, because you've been at this for a long time.
Yeah, 20
Like,
years.
That's wild.
I know.
You started very young. So do you mind if we like go now back to the beginning? We've sort of Quentin Tarantino'd it and been like, this is where you're at. And how did you get going in this? I know your mom is a producer, correct?
Yeah.
So how did you find yourself in it?
I think I was a rowdy kid. Like, I think I just like really loved making people laugh, making people happy, entertaining people.
Yeah.
And my mom was a producer, and she was shooting a campaign for Dove.
Okay.
Dove Beauty, and she was shooting it at our house, at our, like, my family's home. And I think one of their actors bailed, and they needed some kid to do, like, you know, some B-roll stuff, like stepping on the scale and frowning and, like, you know, just, like, looking in the mirror and stuff like that. And so I stepped in. I loved it. And the director was like, you should get her an agent. I feel like she's very directable, and she could have a future in this. And so my mom hooked me up with Norbert, who then remained my agent for 20 years. And from then it was really just seeing what parts I could get, and I really fell in love with it. And I did stop for a while. I took a break when I was around 10.
Okay.
It was really good timing. I got my braces on. I got a really bad haircut.
Okay.
That was all par for the course. And then when I got back to it, it was like falling in love with it all over again, because I had been growing up and I had been playing little sisters, daughters, like things where I wasn't really with people my age. And then when I went back to it, I booked Degrassi and I was with people, my friends, like it felt like camp, and it was just like this whole other ball game where we really got to explore, and they gave us such, you know, heavy storylines and such interesting things to play with. So it's kind of like it was the best 4 years of learning about performance and acting like I ever could have asked for. It was amazing.
So what did you, it's interesting because if you like most people, by the time you were what, 14 when you booked Degrassi? Is that, so you took about 4 years off-ish?
Yes.
So that's the extent of my ability to do math. But it's interesting taking a break in a career before you're even a teenager.
Yeah, everyone was like, she's on hiatus.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I don't know what that means.
So you fell in love with it right away when you were a kid. What caused you to fall back in love with it when you got onto Degrassi? Because that would have been such an interesting transition.
Yeah, I think from all of my knowledge up till that point, it really did seem like work, because, you know, I would be like 8 years old, I'd be missing field trips. All my friends at school would have new friends because I missed so much school.
Right.
And, you know, hot lights, 10-hour days, like really, it's a job.
It's Dickensian. It's like, get up in those chimneys and sweep them, children.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And like, I think that is something that not a lot of people understand, and like, especially as a kid, I really didn't get that. I just saw the glitz and the glam, and of course that I had passion, so that carried me through it. But it definitely had a lot of hard points too, and I didn't have anyone to kind of like talk to about that. Like all of my peers were older. Right. And they had been doing this for so long, and it was the dream job to them, and so I kind of felt very alone in that. And then when I went back to it, just having people my own age be going through the exact same thing I was going through, like there was a real camaraderie and a real trust in each other, and I feel like that was a part that I'd never had before.
Right.
And that kind of made me fall in love with it even more, because I was like, now I've got friends in this. Like I could do this for the rest of my life. I hope I get to do this for the rest of my life. So that's kind of what happened there.
That's great. And did you find, like, it's funny because I started, like, I'm from a really small town, so there was nothing to do. Like, I couldn't really audition for stuff. It was like local community theater, and I didn't really get into it until I was around 16. But I went to New York for theater school, and then I got into it like as an adult. And one of the things that I think is like the most, that I find the most addictive about acting, but also is perhaps the most terrifying, is the connection. Like actually genuinely connecting to the human beings in front of you in a way that's like, when I use the word intimate, obviously I'm not speaking in terms of any kind of context. It's purely just like, when do you actually in life connect with a human being and attempt to be present for an entire conversation? And then we're asked to do it over and over and over again. And every time
find new things.
Yeah. And every time I do, I feel as though I'm strapping myself into a roller coaster, and it's like, okay, here we go. And it's like, I think I know what it's going to be, but I don't know. And so I'm really curious what that, like, when you're 14 and you barely even know like who you are, like you're at the beginning of personhood.
Yep.
And it's interesting, like you talking about the connection being such an important part of it. Like, how was that? Were you like aware of like, oh, this is different than regular high school connection?
Yeah. Well, so what's interesting is I booked Degrassi the summer that I had just finished grade 9, and I was going into grade 10.
Oh, man.
And then I did it for 4 years. So like grade 9 summer, grade 10 summer, grade 11, grade 12. So it literally happened at the exact same time that I was in high school.
Dang.
Which was pretty special, because I was having all these firsts on set, and then I would have the firsts in my life later.
Right.
So you kind of were forced to grow up a little faster. But yeah, I think, like I said, like the connections that you form and the trust that you have in each other to find new things. And also just like Degrassi was such a well-oiled machine. I feel like it was always like master, over, done.
Yeah.
Like it was never anything more complicated than that, unless it was like a night shoot, which everyone was like, whoa, night shoot, because we always had like 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. done. It was a roller coaster. And I feel like because they gave us content that was so, out there and not stuff that I think people our age had been doing at that point, it felt like a real stretch, and it felt like you were constantly pushing yourself to be better and work hard, and it was extraordinary.
It's funny, like, because I coached so many people for Degrassi and so many people that ended up on that set, and I feel like all of them were with Norbert as well. Like almost everybody was with Norbs, and it's funny because like so many of the scenes in the audition material would be really intense, and I was just like, listen, if you're gonna have to do something that's intense, like, little Timmy is doing drugs again, and he's like one moment away from either like running to the convent or killing himself. It's like, if you have to do it, like this is the material to do it. It throws you into stakes.
Totally.
And did you find that you guys like supported each other through that, or did you find it was easy to get into those emotional stakes at that age?
I don't think it was easy. I feel like, but again, I learned from everyone. Like I remember Anna Golia, she was someone who I looked up to so much on Degrassi, and she had a storyline where she had to be very isolated and really go to a dark place. And I remember watching her, like we were all hanging out, we were all like just shooting the shit, like having a good time, and she literally just separated herself and like isolated and did her work just so that she could, kill this scene. And I remember looking at her and being like, you're 16 and you have the like ability to do this and the dedication and the discipline. Like that was so inspiring to me. And I think that was a moment, I was 14 at the time, and I remember that was a moment where I was like, that's really cool. Like I hope I can get to that point. And so you kind of pick up little things from everyone as you go. Eric, who played my brother, I loved how like subtle and understated he was, and even off screen, like he just had the most beautiful demeanor with everyone, and that was something that I really looked up to. And yeah, I feel like the best part of that show was learning from everyone and kind of all of us becoming better, more rounded actors because of it.
Right.
Which is cool.
So going from like a hiatus into series reg right out of the gate, how was life? We're going to pivot now. How was life post Degrassi? Did you go right into booking more? Was it like a never-ending bookathon, or have you gone through periods of strugs?
Yeah, strug. I think that's probably the hardest part of this job, is just the uncertainty and never knowing when you're going to work again. And because I had worked as a kid, I understood that, and I knew that like a good year for an actor is like you book 3 projects. That's like considered an excellent year. And because I was in school, like it really didn't bug me, because I would take a week off and go shoot something, and then I'd come back, I'd be in school, and life would go on. But when you're out of school and you're relying on it entirely, it's like, what do you do in the off time?
Right.
And so when I booked Degrassi, I still had that fear, and I think a lot of people around us were like, this is like your launch point, like you are gonna explode. And I never believed that, because I was just like, I know the reality of this industry. I know how hard it is. I know people give up because of this very reason. Like it's really, really hard. And so I kind of left Degrassi. First of all, it was kind of a sad ending, because we thought we were going back, and then the show was done. So we didn't really have a final goodbye with each other.
Right.
And then we were kind of just unemployed, and it was like, oh God, this is real now.
That's such a brutal reality.
Oh my God, it was terrifying. I was in school still, like I'd ended up going to university for screenwriting, and so I had that at least. But yeah, then I just kept taking auditions, kept trying to book, and it was tough. I worked, I think I did 1 project a year for about 3 years, and then luckily in my last year of university, I booked Ginny and Georgia, which ended up giving me work for like 6 years, which is amazing. So
wild.
And still going.
Yeah. I know.
Fantastic.
How many seasons are you guys on now?
Season 3 is coming out June 5th, which might be today.
Hot diggity. We're going to try to time this, yeah.
And then season 4, we start shooting this year, I think. And then who knows after that.
Excellent. That's like, it's really, really wonderful to have a show that's like a show that keeps on showing.
I feel like I'm in the best possible position an actor can be in. Like, you have work coming.
Yeah.
That's like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it helps that the show is like wildly popular. Like, it has gone global. It's a sensation, and I'm so proud of it and lucky to be part of it.
It's a really great show. Like, it's, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that. But,
no, I do.
But validation. Look at you guys doing so good on TV. Wow. It's great that you brought up going to school for screenwriting, because I was going to ask you, so how did you, when did you start writing? Again, like, I'm thinking of the timeline of your life and how much you packed into the first, quarter of it. It's just like assuming a lifespan to 100. Like, so where did writing hit you?
I always loved writing, like, even as a child. Like, age 5, I started writing poetry, and that kind of became my first love. And then I think when I was in high school, I was in, like, my school was an art school, and I was in the film program, and I feel like that's when we started kind of like writing our own content and making little short films, and I think that's when I fell in love with it. And I think a huge help was just the fact that I was constantly reading all these professional scripts that were getting made, and so I had kind of like an instinct for dialogue, because I had been an actor, so I knew what words sat well in the mouth and which could be kind of clunky and kind of make for a kind of a bad scene, or just like a not smooth scene.
Yep.
And so I kind of rolled with that, and in my mind I was like, oh, like, acting is very, unstable, uncertain, and so I will have writing as a backup.
You chose writing as a backup.
What a dumb move. Oh my God.
I did the same thing,
yeah.
So I get you.
Like,
yeah.
I don't regret it, and like, writing is the best and I love it, but like, man, I was delusional. It is the exact same thing in a different font. It's so annoying.
It kind of is. It's funny though, because you say you're delusional, but then you've also had meteoric success in it for almost your entire life, which doesn't negate the uncertainty.
That's scary
doesn't
too,
negate the
right?
grind.
It's like,
Yeah.
I know I'm in a very, very good position and I know that I have achieved so much, but I still feel this intense, like, fear that I'm never going to have consistency in my life and never going to work the way that I want to. Because in my brain, I'm like, adult Sarah goes into the office, does a writer's room, kicks it with her, coworkers, like makes a hit show and goes to bed. Like, that would be amazing.
Right.
But that's just not the case. Right now, it's just like, get up, try to write.
Yeah.
If nothing comes out, go home. Like, it sucks. It's sad. It's hard.
Do you have like a process? Like there's like every writer I feel like is just trying to be Stephen King, who's just like, I don't know, I just write every day and then I got like 6 books a year. It's just like, Stephen, with
You're
your money.
setting a bad standard,
Yeah.
bucko.
Yeah.
Yeah. My process is constantly shifting. And it will continue to shift probably for the rest of my life. I don't see myself ever having a consistent routine.
Sure.
I'm trying really hard to get there, but it might just not be me. It might just not be conducive to who I am.
So what kind of stories are lighting you up in the pen and paper department?
Comedy.
Okay.
Always, but very tough to write, which I kind of had an inkling about, but definitely weird to try and get it started.
Mm-hmm.
The dream would be to write something powerful, something moving, with comedy threaded throughout, because I do feel like films that I see that have subtle comedy, like it just makes it so human, and so palatable, and that's a real art. And I also just love really badass female characters. Like anytime I see a badass woman on screen, I'm like, love it.
Do you mind if I ask you to say more? Like for you, what constitutes badass? Like I'm just curious about.
I don't want to say like violent because that's bad.
I mean, it's
violence
bad in
is
real
wrong,
life, but it's great in television.
but in the right scenario.
Yeah, like this is something that like I remember in theater school. I had a teacher. I can't remember who it was, but they were like you have to learn how to smoke, and I was like, what? This was like in 2003, so it was like before anybody. Like they were also just like, do you have trauma? You should stab it every day. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know if I have enough, and then I went and tried to cultivate trauma. It was but he was right, because like there was nothing more awkward than watching somebody on stage like fake smoke a cigarette. But I remember having this conversation. He's like, oh, listen, it's bad for you. It's cool as shit. And then we watched people do it, and I was like, nobody's watching James Dean and wishing it was a carrot.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so I'm curious about like I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, like violence bad in real life, but absolutely, like I don't think John Wick would be even remotely interesting if it was hugs.
Right? If it was like, let's all just have a conversation.
I know. Yeah, exactly. So okay, cool.
I would say my
what
first
else?
badass woman that I was like, oh, that's sick, was Black Widow in Iron Man. I just remember, I loved Iron Man. Like, I'm a huge Iron Man fan. Rip Tony Stark. So
It's
sad.
great. Robert Downey Jr.
Like
legitimized
unreal.
the blockbuster
And
for an entire generation.
Oh my God, his journey through life, unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I remember seeing Scarlett Johansson do that, and I was just like, whoa, a woman can command a room like that, and a woman can like be badass like that. That's absolutely sickening. And I think because I'm so prim and proper, and because I've been raised to be like a good little lady, I think it would be really fun to be able to be violent, be aggressive, take up the room. And I do think playing Max has given me some of that, just in a way that she emotionally takes up space and like can really command a room with her energy. But I feel like the actual physicality of it, like just like getting to beat up men, oh my God, would be dope.
I get it, totally. So is that something that you're training for? Is that something that like you're, because I know a lot of folks are getting into like mixed martial arts and all that stuff now, because it's like the workout
I
du jour.
should. I absolutely should. I haven't done enough research on it, but I'm in the process.
Cool. And as a writer, are there genres like you talked about comedy and threading that needle? Like, I agree that comedy can be that like spoonful of sugar that really helps the medicine go down. It's something that I think Ginny and Georgia does so well.
Totally.
Is that there's like genuinely gut-wrenching stuff in that show, and yet the whole thing never feels like the show is trying to distance itself from the audience. I think it's because you guys, from a cast standpoint, so it seems effortless, but like effortlessly weave that comedy into all of the dramatic interaction. So I agree with that. Are there other genres? Like, have you tried writing action? Have you tried getting into that?
No. but I did have, this is bad. I did have an idea based loosely on my sister, because she dated someone that I did not like. And so I kind of came up with an idea of like, what if like two sisters, like one of them's getting married and the guy is like a bad guy, but the other sister is a hit woman, and her next mark is the fiance, and like, what would that look like? And that kind of sparked that, and I remember being like, oh, this is an action film. This is something I've never done before, and so I started writing that, and that was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, that's just a little side story.
That's cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So pivoting back to kind of the acting world, you seem to have just a tremendous amount of ease about you as a person and as a performer. You laugh. Is that something that you feel is not true?
That is not the case.
Say more. Say more.
I feel like the last 2 years have given me so much to think about, because, you know, I am in an amazing position, and I recognize my privilege in that, and I recognize how lucky I've been and how many opportunities I've had. But the fact that I still feel this like emptiness and this, you know, it's kind of like a nagging feeling that I'm not doing enough, or that I'm not succeeding, and that this is what the rest of my life is going to look like day to day, just like waiting for something to happen. That's a really scary feeling, and the kind of existentialism of it, like, is just, because I wake up, I try to fill my day with stuff, I try to write, but it's all, you know, you're making the schedule. It's like you're not held responsible for anything, and then once a week or twice every month, like, an audition will come around and it occupies you for a day and a half, and then it's gone. And I also can recognize how many people are trying to do this job, and how many people are out there who are extraordinarily talented. Like, I really don't think it's enough to be good anymore.
I don't think it ever has been.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, now it's all about standing out, and so you have to take risks, but it's like, how much of a risk is too much? And then it's like, do you, like, my mom's always like, just call the director. I'm like, that's not how it works, Tessa. So it just feels like you're constantly running and trying to find this ease and pace, but you just never do, or at least I haven't yet.
Right.
And so that's kind of been my current challenge, is kind of figuring out, if this is what the rest of my life looks like, how am I going to fill it with things that still make me feel like I'm okay?
That's really interesting.
Okay.
So you were kind of like going further into that sort of existential dread about a lack of just the look on your face.
Yeah, existential dread is the perfect word for it.
So it's so interesting, because I have found, and really let's just make this all about me for you know, I have found that no matter how busy I make myself, because right now, like, I have so much going on. Like, I write, I produce, I act, I coach, I've got this podcast, all this stuff. And so I literally have like no days, like, or no hours a day. Like, we babysat a dog for about a week and a half, and I lost about 7 hours a week just to take this dog for a walk. And I was like, I am 7 hours away from oblivion.
Yeah.
And I still don't feel like I'm doing enough.
I
and
know.
I still think that I'm like chasing some level of stability that I just hope one day is going to come. So I don't know if the answer is more work, if that happens to be what you're trying to chase, but I'm curious, like, have you always been filled with that feeling of...
I don't think it happened until I left school.
Right.
Because school was a consistent routine, and everyone else was doing it, and so it felt purposeful. That's a very important word, purposeful, because like, I just feel like what I do day to day, I don't feel purpose, and that is scary. And I feel like what gives me purpose is work, and because the work comes around not very often, it's just like, how do you fill your time in a way that feels purposeful and you feel like you're still working towards something? And honestly, after like that conversation with Jason Knight that I had, that's when he told me that a good actor works 3 months a year. Like, that's an amazing actor. Having 3 months of work is like insane. And after he told me that, I was like, I unraveled. I was like, oh my God, what the hell are we supposed to do with the other 9 months?
Yeah.
Like, that's terrifying. So that's been the journey. And it's scary, but it's also like, I wouldn't give it up for anything. And when I think about, you know, what else I could be doing, I kind of laugh, because I'm just like, I'm already living my absolute dream, like getting to do this and getting to perform and make people laugh and make people feel things. Like, that's just like such a gift. And sure, it comes with a lot of, you know, pain sometimes and existential crises, but it is, at the end of the day, something I want to do forever, and something I truly am passionate about. And so you kind of got to ride that wave as long as you can, and kind of stick with it until you do find your own, you know, way, I guess. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Sometimes I find that I take solace in the fact that it's like this, like in life, there's a lot of suffering that you don't choose. And if you, I should speak about myself rather than like me and all of England. If I have found that if I'm like trying to seek other people's approval, or I'm trying to chase something because I want like this monetary thing out of it, rather than just being like, what lights me up? Why do I actually want this? And leaning into that, then I find my suffering is much worse. But if I find that I'm like, well, this is the pursuit that I'm after, and this is why, it's clear to me.
Beautifully said.
Well, yeah, then I find at least the suffering, I'm like, well, okay, choose this. So
Choose your hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's going to be hard regardless, but choose your hard.
Yeah, so if I have a day that's garbage, I can at least go to bed and be like, well, I don't feel victimized by my own life, because I chose it. And I chose to step into the ring, and I'm not surprised that I got punched.
I like that.
And I don't know if that's going to help you. It's just more like something that, I mean, it's not like new either. I think that was like Socrates. So it's like, yeah, this is just like basic Stoic principles, but it's helped me. But it's interesting to me because you talked about purpose, and like you isolated that as something that matters to you. And purpose to me, from a, like, one, it's extremely important in a performance capacity. Like, I find as a coach, the number one thing I'm asking actors is like, well, what's your purpose? If you don't have a lighthouse in a scene, you're just a ship, and you might be a really beautiful ship, but you're like, but why? You know, you got to have a place to go. And so it's interesting to me that you seem so clear on how much you love performance, and yet you feel as though you don't have purpose. Would you mind saying more about that? And it's okay if you don't even have anything to say about it.
Yeah,
Like, I'm just fascinated by it.
I'm trying to think. I think there's something to be said here about judgment and the fear of what other people think, because I do feel like I compare myself. Comparison, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I do compare myself to a lot of my peers, and specifically peers that aren't in the industry.
Okay.
And you know, my partner is a doctor. Like, he has, like, from beginning to end of day, like, he is constantly busy. And you know, I have friends in PR, and they're doing, you know, they're very, very busy. They have their morning to night jobs, and there's people, like, I have teacher friends and all these people, and the fact that I can't text them and be like, do you want to go for lunch on Wednesday? Because they have a job. Whereas I am always free.
Yeah.
And that is really hard, because then you look at yourself and you're like, what am I doing wrong? Like, all these people have these journeys that they're on, and they're functional members of society, and they're doing their thing. And I feel like I am, honestly, I just feel like I'm a kid in an adult's body, being like, what do I do today to make me look like I am working?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'll go to coffee shops and I'll take out my laptop and I'll try to write something, but odds are, like, sometimes when you feel like that, it's really hard to even write. Like, it's really hard to be creative when you're really down on yourself. And so it's, I think, something that I've been struggling with lately is like, do I push myself to get out of that, having to make a routine for myself every day in order to feel purpose? Do I, like, push myself to do the things I kind of don't want to do in order to fill up those days? Or do I learn how to take all of that free time and actually make peace with it and be okay with it, and know in my soul that that is part of the job, and that is still purpose, like being able to fill that. with things that I want to do, and that I don't have to fill my time and every minute of every day in order to be a functional member of society. Because look at me, I'm sitting here, I'm doing a podcast, like I'm a functional member of society.
Yeah.
I'm doing my thing. But at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, it's like that the mind starts racing, and you start considering all the ways you're failing as a person, and that is tough. Like that is a very tough kind of. And just like the fact that it goes on for months and months.
Yeah.
And especially when you have all that free time in a day, and I live alone, so the mind just never stops. Like you are just thinking constantly, and that is also a dangerous place to be.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny, I listened to you talk about this, and it's like, on one hand, I'm finding like I work with a lot of like, mid-20s actors, and whether it be coaching, production, or on set, and I find one of the biggest things that, like at the end of the day, each of us is an instrument, right? And we have to sit down, and our keys are constantly shifting and changing, and we have to play the music that we're given with the keys that we've got on any given day. And I feel as though, on one hand, a lot of actors have a lot of opinions about things outside of themselves, but they actually have very few opinions about themselves. It's like if you ask the question, well, who are you? It's like very seldom do we actually get the time and the space to sit with that and actually reflect on it and to be with ourselves for extended periods of time. And yet when we do have the time and the space to do it, me, is it scary?
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Absolutely.
Like, there's a reason why I feel like 12 hours a day every day with work. And
totally. And then I wonder if maybe that's what I'm doing too. It's like I have all this time, and like of course I feel this need to fill it because I'm like scared to be with myself. And that's very valid.
Totally valid.
Yeah. So it's finding that balance is so freaking hard.
It is.
And I miss being able to be a kid and just be told math next, science next. Like that was great because someone was just telling me what to do and I could go with that. Yeah. But having to make your own schedule and really build your life from scratch is kind of, I mean, it's exhilarating, and it's such a gift, but it's also very daunting.
Exhilarating's a word for it. Sure. Yeah. Like, I don't know if I would it's it's kind of like the burden of a fully felt life. Like I've literally known you for like all of, I don't know what, 36 minutes. And so let me tell you, 36 minutes of your life. Yeah, exactly. let me tell you a little bit about you. But you strike me as someone like even just in conversing with you, like it's like you have an impact on me in the way that you speak, and it seems as though you're open to the way I'm communicating, and you're impacted. And so I feel like that fully felt thing here, it's like seeing actor superpowers happening in real time, which is really cool. And then it's like that fully felt life when the downtime hits is a totally different world, because that's where, like, no matter how busy we are all, like, it's all uncertain. Like, we can walk outside and get hit by a car, the sun can decide to sneeze and the entire civilization gets wiped off the planet, like all sorts of shit totally out of our control. And that's hard. Like, it's hard to relinquish control and sit with oneself. And as somebody who has known you for quite some time, I do think that it's admirable, though it seems like you're experiencing internal conflict around it. It's admirable that you're spending time with yourself and you're not like seeking out, like, oh, I guess I gotta get a side hustle, or I gotta, I mean, Lord knows you have like a flibbity gibbet of Instagram followers. Like, you could be just monetizing like the out of that. You could fill 12 hours a day easily, like launching whatever you felt like you wanted to. Like, there's a world where you fill that cup, but it also feels like, I don't know, I get the sense that you're doing what you need to be doing for yourself right now, even if it's not easy. Yeah. And even if it involves stillness and dread.
I agree. I think something that I'm working on is I'm big on gratitude, and I hope that comes across, because I really am, like, with everything I've been able to do, I am so grateful, and I'm so lucky. And I think what I forget to do is recognize at the end of the day that I am working really hard, and that I am working on myself, which a lot of people don't do. And I'm facing the scary things, and I'm looking at myself, and I'm wondering how to grow and how to become a better version of myself. And it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of struggle, but I'm doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
You know, and that's enough. And that is something I should be so, so proud of, which I am. So.
Good. Yeah. I mean, like, oh man. So I just turned 40, which was its own little existential nightmare. Yeah.
You look 28.
Thank you for noticing. It is a lot of, listen, it's beef tallow, the gym, smart life choices. It works
it
so
really
good
does.
About the face. It's nice.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Thank you. But it was interesting because I was looking at my life in terms of decades for a hot sec there, and it was like poor Brie, who has to live with me all the time, was like so how you doing? And I'm like, I'm fine. And internally I was just like, I might die. I might emotionally die, and it could physically kill me.
Yeah.
And it resulted in a nice little meltdown prior to my birthday, which was super great, where like I just wasn't feeling like a pretty princess enough, and it's like, but I also didn't ask for any attention or anything special either. It was just like a weird little vortex of my own shit. And but it's interesting hearing you talk about all of this at 27, I want to say is 26, 26.
Watch it. 26.
So sorry, man. Listen, Listen, you're still playing high school, and I, when I was 26, wasn't doing any of that. It was really interesting because like I was coaching people, and I was put into this position where I knew a lot about one thing, which caused me, you know how like when people get rich and then they start giving life advice on everything because they like got a lot of money one time. It's like they bought Bitcoin when it was 2 cents and now they're a yogi. But I was that guy, and it caused me to completely stagnate in every other aspect of my life until like at 34 I was like, I should go to therapy. And it's really like, I know you're in this period of like interesting stuff, like a combination of suffering and gratitude, like where you know you have something that most people go their entire lives without ever achieving, and yet and let me tell you, you're way ahead of the game. That you're spending this time and you're working to grow because you like objectively don't have to, because you could use this one thing, this like not small success, and be like, well, I got it all figured out. I think it's very healthy to not be doing that. And I wish I was as ahead of the game as you are at this stage.
That's very sweet.
Yeah, it's cool. So you've talked about in interviews a little bit, and we're just going to rehash old I'm kidding.
Love it.
But I'm curious because like you've talked a little bit about social media and the complexities around it, but you have like more influence than King Henry VIII. Like if you look at it objectively. And so I'm really curious if you're okay with talking about social media, and it's okay too if you're not, because it is a strange beast. How do you maneuver that? Because it's kind of removed from the show. It's like adjacent.
Yeah. You know what? If it were up to me, truly, I would not have it. I wouldn't be on TikTok. I wouldn't be on Instagram. I wouldn't have Twitter. Like, I would not do it.
Do you mind if I ask you to say more about that? Like, what do you...
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Why?
I do think it is a dangerous place to compare yourself. And I think that pretty much all people do on social media. I will say TikTok's pretty great because I've learned a lot.
TikTok has taught me a lot about space.
There's so many hacks. I've learned about cleaning. I've watched so many carpets be cleaned. Like I do love TikTok, and that's true.
I learned on TikTok the other day that there is a region of space that like is like 247 light years across that has nothing in it. Nothing. What? Yeah. So that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know why it's terrifying. I just know that I am terrified to buy it.
I know. Well, what I was going to say earlier, but then I was like, I don't want to interrupt your
thing about space.
Beautiful thing. Oh. But did you know it would only take a meteor 1 kilometer in radius to wipe out all life on Earth?
I did not.
And that if that meteor was rolling towards us, there would literally be nothing we could do to stop it. So that could be happening as we speak. We could be dead in 20 minutes. Anyways, I digress.
Listen, I'm glad it's you here at the end of all things.
The thing about TikTok is like there are all these amazing videos that like I save and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I get some of my news from TikTok, which I guess isn't all that great because it could be disinformation, but
So could CNN.
Yes, exactly. The thing is, I can't stop certain videos from coming up, like gorgeous, gorgeous women who are, you know, absolutely killing it in their corporate gig, you know, and that's tough for me to see because that triggers the part of me that's like, oh, I'm not doing enough, I'm not succeeding.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that is a very delicate trigger that I haven't fully healed. Like that's a childhood wound that I haven't really made peace with yet, and I feel like that's my current journey. And so I feel like all of these things on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, it kind of just punches at that. And so if it were up to me, I would not do it. However, I do know that our age and like just the digital age it's so much about that, and that is so much of the advertising and so much of the way to connect to audiences is now done through those channels. And so I kind of have to nut up and make it work. And it's been, I mean, it's fun. I get to see my friends and they're, you know, I get to keep up with them, and it's like definitely a connected, you know, network, and you can stay in contact with all the people you love. It's just there are certain parts of it that can be very, actually I literally screenshotted something. I'm going to read you something.
Great.
Sometimes, I don't do this often, but I did venture into my message requests.
Okay.
Dear Sara Waisglass, I really fucking hate you acting in Ginny and Georgia. When you find out that she didn't tell you that she f***ed your brother, I'm sorry you're a little fuck-ass bitch in that show, and I'd hate to see you act ever again. Sincerely, me. And she goes, obviously in the movie though, you low-key bad as f***. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, I mean, it makes me laugh, obviously.
Yeah, I also appreciate you narrating all of the spelling mistakes. Like
of course.
that's subtly
It
vindictive,
has
and
to
I'm
be
here
accurate.
for it. Yes, yeah.
I feel like, yeah, when people talk about, you know, the effect that social media has, especially people who are in the public eye, it's like they always talk about hate comments and negative responses and just being torn apart online. And that's true, that happens. However, I also feel like I've built this pretty great routine where I just don't look. And like except for like once every 6 months.
Yeah, and it sounds like a really rewarding
it's
experience.
super fun. It really is super fun. But like I really don't even read my comments. I don't, you know, think much about any of it. And I think that if I didn't have the following that I had, it would actually be worse. Like I think I would pay more attention to it. I would be more obsessed with it. I would be more, you know, it's kind of hard to describe.
It's like a carrot that would be dangling. It would be like another thing that you are trying to get.
Yeah, and something to control, and something that I could like use to control other people's perspective of me. But the thing is, I kind of like that, you know, only the people who know me get to know me, you know? Right. Like, yeah, of course, I post pictures of where I'm going and what I'm doing, but like at the end of the day, like you really don't know me until you have a conversation with me.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing, and I want everyone to keep that in mind. And so like getting to, you know, share little snippets of who I am is great fun, but at the end of the day, I know that like the people in my life are with me because of me and because we've made connections. And like, it kind of just seems like the rest is just silly and fun and getting to share, you know, stuff here and there that makes people go, huh, she's doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, like going into that. Let's do a comprehensive breakdown of the critique.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But there's a few things like back in my day, celebrities were removed. You didn't have access. So it's like you can hate a performance, but you couldn't be like,
hey, I hated your performance.
Dearest Doug, you're bad at all of this. And also I feel as though this is something that I should be able to reach out to you to say. This is like walking into a chicken sandwich shop, being mad that it's not full of burgers, and then yelling at them. It's like, don't watch. And at the same time, it's like, I don't know that it's productive to antagonize the audience either. Like, even if the audience like doesn't like it, like I don't know how to handle, like I don't know how to navigate that. This idea that we're constantly accessible and also that the people who might be saying bad things about us are also the people who are watching the show that allows us to continue to not die of death.
Yeah.
It's a weird battleground. And I don't, like, I am actively seeking it, like, by way of influence and trying to do good with, like, this podcast and with YouTube channel and all this stuff and be of service. But also, like, the few videos that I've had that have gone, like, properly viral, I'm like, oh, after 100,000 comments or like 100,000 views, and you're into the land of people who are finding you that are not here to learn about acting, it gets weird and mean.
God.
So mean.
People are so quick to be awful.
And it's
weird because it's like, why are you spending your energy on that? Because that is kind of the way that I've had to rework it. Because I'm like, if you are taking time out of your day to actually make someone else feel like you suck, like, point blank. Like, that's just such a shitty thing. And, you know, of course, people are hurting, and hurt people.
I was literally about to say that, but it's also like, it's not nice.
It's not nice. And at some point, you have to take responsibility for your actions. You can't just, like, blame it on like, at some point, you have to start living your life.
Yes.
And you can be an end product of the way you were raised and all the things that have happened to you in your life. But at some point, you get to start deciding how you act and how you live. And if that's how you're choosing to spend your time, damn, like, I'm glad I can be a vessel for you to share your hate, but, like, it really doesn't affect me because I'm like, if I had a choice to be friends with you, I don't think I would want to. And so why on earth would I care? I also saw this amazing video the other day with this guy talking about a girl and she had blonde hair, and he was like, I hate your blue hair. And he was like, did that hurt your feelings? And she was like, no. And he was like, why? She was like, because my hair is blonde. He was like, so if someone's saying, I hate your acting, it's so bad, and you're like, well, it's not, like, I'm proud of it, it's just like, it doesn't hurt you.
Yeah.
So I think that's also that just really stuck with me. I was like, that's kind of a great way to think about it. Like, if you just have pure confidence in who you are. I don't have that. I definitely don't have that.
But it sounds like something great to strive through. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
We're just talking about the complexities of social media and navigating people who are negative, and, like, the concept of hurt people. Because I agree with that. And also, you know, like, eventually you get, like, there is a line. You get into the land of, like, this guy's got heads in fridges. Like, that's, you know, we're past
bad.
We're past hurt people here. Yeah. We're in the, like, that might be evil. You know.
But I also think that there's really no, like, I think I was raised to be very neutral and very I actually think Degrassi was a big part of this, because I did get quite a lot of followers from Degrassi, and I feel like that was kind of my first venture into, like, social media virality, if you will. And I had a couple moments, like, where I would talk about something political, or I would say something that people were not okay with. There's one picture of me as a kid where I have a coat on and I put my hands inside my coat, so, like, my arms are, like, flying around, and my caption was, arms, who needs them? Bad thing to do.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, there are people with no arms, and I was like, oh my god, I'm the worst human being. It made me think. I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, but then it made me think, like, there really isn't anything in this world that you can say that someone won't fight you on.
This is true.
Like, even when someone's like, new nails, other people are like, you don't have, like, there are people who don't have hands. You're so rude. And that's such a tough atmosphere to, like, be involved in and, like, try to integrate into and kind of succeed in. Like, I really feel like people are so full of hate and anger, and it's so easy to let that anger fly out on these social media, like, mediums. And so it is such a tricky territory that I'm still navigating and learning to navigate. But yeah, it can be wild out there.
Yeah, like that suffering thing. I think it's because I've thought about this a lot, because I think about the internet and how it is a reflection of civilization a lot. But I think it's like, because people do that for other people. Like, they're like, there are people without hands, and I'm like, well, by saying that, you're, like, kind of saying that, like, you have hands, you know. And it's like, but I feel like we wish more kindness came to us, and so people can be, like, aggressive with what they perceive as a lack of kindness for others, as opposed to being like, maybe I should bestow some kindness upon myself. But that, I mean, I could also just be wrong. People could just be monsters. I don't know.
Well, I also wonder, like, we've spoken about this, like the negativity of the world and how aggressive everyone is and how quick they are to point fingers and make blame. It kind of makes me wonder, like, was the world always like this? Was the world always this, like, objectively strict on all these different things? Or, like, are we just seeing it now because everything's being captured? You know, like 50 years ago, how did people treat each other? And, like, would that have been the same if 50 years ago they had Instagram?
I think it's harder to be cruel to somebody when you're face to face with them.
Absolutely.
And I think it's easier to be kind to people when you're face to face with them.
Absolutely.
And I think that 50 years ago, nobody was asked to have opinions about everything, right? Like, nobody was going to, like, pop music star du jour and being like, what are your thoughts on the existence of the Pope in civilization?
Yes.
And expecting them to be the ones that are like, well, let me tell you, because I've thought about this a lot, when, you know, they're like, lip gloss rhymes with hair. Like, that's the only thing.
Yes.
You know, it's just like, so I feel like there's a lot of, I feel like the pressure being put on everyone, famous or not, to have an opinion about everything is inherently quite dangerous, because the only truth is that for the vast majority of subjects that are, like, in my case, not acting related, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I devoted all of my time getting good at this one thing.
And when you are asked to share your opinion and you are uneducated on that topic, you're spreading disinformation.
Yes.
And that is, like, so dangerous.
Yeah.
Because I heard this quote last night and it was like, disinformation is just as powerful as information. And I was like, oh my God, that's 100% correct.
Yeah.
Like, you see all these infographics and you're like, that looks legit. And then you do your research and it's like, that's absolutely not effing legit. And it's just, it really makes you realize you have to be so careful, especially now. I hate to touch on it, but AI.
Oh, it's wild.
Deepfakes. I'm terrified. Like, how are we ever to know what is real ever again?
Yeah.
I don't trust anything unless it is in person.
Yeah.
In life. Like,
Well,
I really can't.
I'm actually Tom Cruise.
My mom the other day, she sent me a picture of the CN Tower with a big bunny around it, and she was like, "Can you see this from your condo?" And I was like, "Mother,
Oh.
that's AI, baby."
Yeah, big time.
So funny.
That would be
but
the world's biggest bunny.
again, it's like, wow, like, this is the world is a changing, and it's changing in scary ways.
It's true. On the subject of change, because it's a thing too, like, I also think it's, like, changing in great ways. Like, artificial intelligence will very likely aid in curing cancer, all this kind of stuff. Like, computers are just
They
going to
can
be
sense
better.
breast cancer 5 years before it occurs.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Crazy.
Like, there's lots of, like, awesome stuff, but also, like, really scary stuff. I also, like, really wish that we would just focus AI in the direction of, like, all the shit we don't want to do first, instead of, like, art and the fun stuff. It's like, yeah, paralegal shit,
Yeah.
you know?
Like,
Taxes.
do the dishes.
Yeah, exactly. Change the oil in my car.
Do laundry. Do not write a script.
Yeah.
Do not be an actor.
No.
AI. Please, I beg of you.
I
There
agree.
are so few jobs.
Yes. In that spirit of change and growth, like, as you're going into the new season of Ginny and Georgia, or whatever projects you have going, I'm always fascinated with actors who are, like, good, which you very clearly are. What is kind of scaring you as an actor, and like what do you want to lean into by way of growth points? Like, I don't know if I can do this, and I want to try.
Okay.
And I'm curious.
So I did a movie in 2021 that was genuinely the most fun I'd ever had on a set. And it was I still to this day think I was the wrong choice for the role. Like, I was like, I don't really think that I can sell this. It was a badass woman.
Nice.
And I got to, like, you know, sling guns and run through the forest and run from gunfire. And it was really crazy. And I want to do more of that, because I genuinely did not believe myself in that role. And I think I'm very quick to, when I get an audition, I skim it and I'm like, I know I'm not going to get chosen for this. I know I am not the right fit for this. Whereas so many of my friends are like, this is mine. And I'm like, that is great energy to have. And I wonder if I walked into most auditions like that, if I would book more. But I feel like I already defeat myself sometimes by just automatically categorizing myself as, like, not the right fit.
Well, I mean, it seems like objectively in this case, you were wrong.
I was. Because then I even, like, some of my best friends are from that set, and I tell them every once in a while, I'm like, I was the wrong choice. And they're like, no, you were absolutely the right choice. You were so believable. And I was like, it's called Cascade. It's like it was a wilderness adventure kind of situation.
I did one, like different, like co-wrote it and stuff a couple of years ago, but like, they're so fun to make.
Oh my God. It was the best month of my life. Like, I genuinely had so much fun being this entirely different person. And like, we were in Sault Ste. Marie. Like, it was just like such a small situation. Like, we all just hung out. Oh, it was the best. I loved it. What scares me is I'm still playing a 15-year-old. Mm-hmm. And I'm a little, like, I think that there is so much good content for young adults. Like, I really do find that there's so much good, like, I love shows about teens. I consume it all. And so I've never worried about that and worried about my ability to do that. But I'm getting close to a point where I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe. I have a baby face, so could stay doing that for another 10 years.
It's possible, yeah.
But I don't know what else is out there for me, and I don't know how I'm going to shift and leave this place that's so comfortable for me, and kind of learn how to adopt certain, job titles, like, on TV that I have zero experience in.
Right.
Like, we were talking about you playing a doctor, and it's like, it's like, I will be probably so hard on myself when that happens, to just be so correct and so, like, do the research so well. And it's like, as an actor, you're kind of having to live every life possible in order to, perform these roles with clarity and authenticity. And I just feel like the amount you have to learn, it just feels so gargantuan. And that scares me a little bit, because I've always been so comfy in this, like, high school place. So that's probably a fear of mine going forward, but how exciting.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it, that your experience in that regard mirrors the experience of somebody who is graduating from high school.
Totally.
Like, it's like how art does imitate life in that way. It's also, knowing that we kind of have to, like, bring this podcast into land. It's cool hearing you talk about that fear. But it's interesting from my perspective, having had this conversation with you and having had you spend, over an hour talk about how basically your entire existence is sitting in discomfort in so many ways. I don't think you're going to be as hit by a Mack truck with that discomfort when it comes, because it seems like you've actually been getting yourself pretty ready for it.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And also, like, you can train that. Like, there's, like, you can go in and do developmental coachings and get material and get ready and study it all. And I'm sure you're probably ahead of that already. And that's something that I find to be really fun. Like, being like, I don't know how to do this. What is this profession? And I feel like actors are, like, great on trivia teams because we know a little bit about a lot of stuff.
We do, yeah. I love that.
And so when that time comes for you to be playing more of these grown-ass women who are in these, in these different professions, and you're out of the high school world, like, I don't know, I think you're going to crush it. And more than that, I think, again, and I've known you for an hour, but I feel like you're going to be like, yeah, put me in, coach. Like, that seems like your energy. You did that at 14 or you did that at 10 when you were like, fuck yeah, put me in, Coach Dove, and then same thing when you were a lead in a series when you were 14. I don't think that leaning in discomfort is your problem.
That's really kind.
Yeah. That
is so kind. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I tend to end these things by asking, like, one final question. And it's if you could go back in time to, like, just starting out, Sara, is there a piece of advice that you would give her? And I'll say that could be 10-year-old you, because that's, like, young, or it could be, like, starting Degrassi you, because one is, like, I don't know, it's totally up to you.
To be honest, and this is crazy to say, but I think 14-year-old me, I'm really proud of her. Like, I feel like she went into it with such a clear head and such a grounded nature that I'm, like, very, very proud of.
But 10-year-old you, she was a mess.
10-year-old me was dumb as no. I will say I grew up, because I started when I was 6, and I grew up same circle of friends, same neighborhood, like, very, very sheltered. I didn't know much about the world. I was 6.
Sure.
But I didn't interact with people who were all that different from me, and I didn't really because of that, I felt like I was very set in my own ways. And I actually think one of the most beautiful parts of being human is getting to interact with people who are entirely unlike you.
Right.
And like kind of immersing yourself in different cultures and different, you know, situations and just kind of learning as you go. And so I feel like if I could talk to my 6-year-old self, I'd sign her up for some kind of thing that's like completely out of her comfort zone, just to meet more people and kind of learn how to be selfless in a way and have gratitude for where she was at in life, because I really did grow up so privileged. And I think that I don't think it made me, you know, a bad person. I
think you're all right, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm okay. But I think that there was a kind of a bravery to me, which is cool, but like I think that bravery came from really not knowing what else was out there.
Yeah.
Which is spectacular, and I think it worked for me as a kid, but as a person, I think it would have been really nice to know other people existed and really kind of dive into that and learn.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is that like the arrogance of youth thing that is
But how much do you wish you could like go be a kid and run around in a playground and like scream at the top of your lungs and like no one would care?
Yeah, it's true. Now people look at you really funny when you do that. Yeah,
there's like this social connotation to it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think honestly screaming in a field would be a lot more beneficial to adults, if I'm being entirely honest.
Yep, totally
But,
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, I feel like I am a better person having had this conversation. I feel like your energy is so wonderful, and I feel like getting to know you was a real privilege. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here and to chat. And
Thank you for having me, and I gotta say, like, this was one of the most enlightening and like beautiful experiences. I feel like this podcast is gonna help a lot of people, not just in the industry, but just like people who want to grow and who are interested in human connection, and that's pretty cool. You should be very proud.
Thanks. I'll try to be. I'm working on it, you know. I think we good. We got it, guys.
Yay!
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
Guys, that was amazing.
Okay, so that was our episode. I want to say thanks one more time here to Sara for just being so willing to come on board with our podcast in so many ways. We're still so new, and she took a big swing with us. I'm so grateful for it. And I want to thank my producer Dahlia again for facilitating this. And I want to thank all you for being here at the end of the pod. If you are here and you liked this episode and you're new, please click like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to us. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you are getting your podcast, please follow us. If you can, follow us on Instagram or TikTok or both at Nyback Act. Everything about the way content is being distributed seems to be changing a little bit. And it's much less about follower count and it's much more about interaction and people putting your stuff out into the world. So if this was valuable to you, please share it. The goal of everybody working on this podcast is to be a lighthouse that actors can point their ship towards in stormy seas, so that it's just a little bit easier for everybody. And hopefully these podcast episodes help you feel not only educated and inspired, but maybe not so alone out there in the struggles of this industry. If you really, really want to support us, you can head on over to our Patreon. There's a bunch of options there, and it also gives you access to all of my online courses. So it's a great way to work with me if you haven't done so yet. So I appreciate you very, very much, and go be people.